Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday Western U.S. regional forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, I thought we'd begin by taking a look at the year-to-date departure from normal in terms of precipitation. So this goes all the way back to January 1st and takes us through the 13th of May. And overall, when we look at it, it's pretty clear where we were very wet and where we were dry along the West Coast. Certainly California pulling out of drought. In fact, the United States has the lowest drought levels I think that I've ever seen, and part of that's due to the fact that California is not in drought, and much of the rest of the country isn't either, as you can see from this map. We know we've been discussing this drier pocket that's been up here in parts of the Pacific Northwest. I'm really talking about parts of Idaho, parts of Oregon, and Washington, where you can see that since the beginning of the year, some of those locations are more than 10 inches in deficit. Now remember, they get an enormous amount of rain throughout the rainy season here, but still that deficit has been built up. Now, I want to show it to you a little bit differently here, because what we're going to look at next is really a reflection over what the precipitation looked like most recently. And we're going to do that by looking at the soil moisture in the first 3 feet of the soil. Okay, so when you see these numbers, I'm going to tell you these numbers are actually looking very, very good. Even right in through here, I'm kind of talking about Yakima Valley, getting up into the rest of the Columbia Basin, where you start to see some numbers here that are in the 30 to 40% range. Also in the Snake River Valley, those are some of the numbers we're seeing down there. And then of course this part of the San Joaquin Valley there in the Central Valley of California, those numbers are not that anomalously different, okay, than normal. So in other words, we're not pushing boundaries with worrying about major drought concerns at this point. You can see the rest of the western region, though, is doing quite well in terms of their soil moisture. In fact, some of the soils are quite saturated in and around those areas that I showed you that were dry. We're going to keep a close eye on this map throughout the rest of the growing season, because it could give us some clues, some early clues as to where we might start to see some drought pressures. We'll also take a look at things like NDVI and other things to keep an eye on it as well. Right now, though, we just step back and look at the latest drought monitor update. We didn't see too much change here for parts of the Pacific Northwest, really that region right in there, in Washington where it has been dry. Now, the reason why I start off talking about how dry things are, for example, look, the last 14 days, we didn't see much at all in terms of precipitation. A lot of the precip was coming out of these little cutoff lows that kind of came through Southern California, bringing some rain down into this corridor right in through here, and of course in the mountains and some coastal regions. The reason why I bring this up, look at the next 15 days. This came out early this morning, and we're looking at the a precipitation anomaly, so differences from normal. This is a 21-member ensemble, and the way that we look at this is we just try to look for regions that are much wetter than average and regions that are much drier than average. And the flow pattern is going to be doing this. We're going to go back into this big protective southeast ridge. I keep calling it that, but that's really what it does. It just blocks everything out of the way. And we're going to be seeing multiple events kind of coming onshore here into the Pacific Northwest, into California, and they're going to skirt through the mountains. I'm expecting to see a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity in the mountains and a lot of coastal precipitation. This is what we've got to talk about, because this pattern change going back over into this big southeast ridge, well, that's going to change a lot for the West as well. Now, one of the things we will be seeing a difference in is our temperatures. Starting from March 1st going through the 13th of May, looking at the growing degree day anomalies, we can see that the Pacific Northwest actually picked up a lot recently, because remember, we had this split flow. I've been talking about this high over low. Now that high over low has kept this region technically cooler than average so far this year, but allowed the heat to come into the Pacific Northwest, really cranking up their growing degree day units. Well, things are about to really change there as well, because look at what the jet stream is going to be doing by the end of the week. It is screaming out of the Pacific, and it is taking aim on the West Coast United States. We no longer have that flow pattern that did something like this, remember? Where we had this blocked up high over low. Nope, this pattern is screaming out of the west, which means multiple rounds of bringing in some rather sizable amounts of Pacific moisture. So let's get in and talk about it. What will it do to temperatures? Well, we already have started to see the cool down in through this region. So let me switch back over to black there, in through this region right in there. California, we're sliding into the mid part of our week here, seeing temperatures that are coming out of the 80s and 90s and getting right back down into the 60s and 70s at times. No worry right now about frost in the Central Valley, neither the Sacramento or the San Joaquin Valley out of this. Even when you see in the 6 through 10 day forecast, like, holy smokes, look how cool that is. We're not, I've looked out and I haven't seen any frost pressure, so I don't think we have to worry about that. But what will this do? Any moisture that does come in here here, this is going to lower our elevation for snow. So we're talking maybe getting down to about 5,000 feet. And overall, this is going to really slow down the growth of things because we're going to be cooling things off. We're going to be bringing in a lot of cloud cover and rain. Again, that flow pattern looks just like this. Even taking out to the 11 to 15 day forecast here, we still can't shake it. It still seems to be there in the overall flow pattern of the atmosphere with this broader trough here and a ridge moving up the east coast. So if that is the way things are setting up, let's take a look at the persistence in the models at keeping it that way. This is the ridge that had been keeping the west coast so very, very warm, and it's moving right there already by the time we get into tomorrow. So Wednesday morning, it's now moved into the central plains, and then we see the big trough sliding through. And what I want you to watch out on the west coast is just watch the persistence of these bigger troughs swinging in. I'm all the way out already to next Monday. And we just keep seeing them barreling through the west. And it looks as though they really try to hang on in that area through the next 10 days. We might get the building of a ridge that might influence things by the time we get out to the 23rd, 24th of the month. But that's still 10 days of dealing with some cooler weather and some adverse weather for the west coast. That's what the flow pattern is telling me. So to show you the total accumulated precipitation, we're going to look at this again in a few minutes, but look at all of it right now. Look at the moisture that's coming in out west. We're about to pick up a lot of precipitation. Certainly our rain shadow regions, the places that normally miss out on this are going to miss out on the bulk of it, but there'll still be showers even in those rain shadow areas. And the mountains are going to be picking up a lot of moisture. So we may have, after this is all said and done, if we warm right back up, which we could be dealing with a flood threat after we get through with all of this rain. Okay, let's take a look at some of the details with it. I'm just going to play out for you. We're just going to walk through the next 36 hours from our high-resolution rapid refresh model. This begins at 6 a.m. on Tuesday morning. So here's round number 1 hitting coastal Washington and Oregon. And then here comes the big second round right there by the time we get into the morning hours on Wednesday. So this corridor right here on Wednesday is going to be dealing with a lot of rain. Now I want to step this back to show you what's going on in the mountains as well. We do see that around that ridge, see the clockwise flow? We will be getting, watch it again, we will be getting widely scattered mountain-induced thunderstorms out west. So there could be some localized flash flooding just with some of the heavier rain from some of these thunderstorms. But you saw scattered showers, storms moving through the Pacific Northwest today. Watch it one more time here. And then the big show really getting going right there. There's the big plume of moisture coming into Northern California. Okay, let's now look at this from the European model because the European model allows us to go out 10 days here with precipitation. So if we click play, I'm just going to get you right to when that big push comes through. So right here, see it? This is now Wednesday midday, getting into Wednesday evening. This is now Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Now, we've already got winter storm watches out for this area. And just looking at some of the National Weather Service reporting here, we're expecting snowfall levels to be around 5,000 feet. But because of the persistence of this moisture coming over the Sierra Nevada, we may be adding another 3 feet of snow here in mid-May to that corridor. Watch what happens. So I've got you out to Thursday morning, by the way. This is now Thursday night, Friday morning. I mean, just expect across a huge section of the West here, just getting after, early this morning, just chances of rain and more rain and higher elevation snow. Look at that. By next Sunday, another big push at some mountain snow here coming into the Sierra Nevada. It just doesn't calm down because the jet stream is unrelenting bringing in that moisture. So we're going to be adding a lot here with what we would consider late season moisture because technically, our dry season should be well on its way. And it may not be until we get out to the 23rd before I start to see higher atmospheric pressure pushing in here, which is going to get us back on a trajectory of any storm systems having to come around that big high pressure system. See it here? But until then, we've got quite a bit of wet weather to be talking about here. So putting it all together as we wrap up this video, we could be seeing in parts of Northern California an additional 4+ inches of precipitation. Getting into the Cascades here, same deal. Coastal Washington, Oregon picking up anywhere between 2 and 3 inches. But it gets across a widespread region of the West. And look at how the mountains are lifting the air here in parts of Idaho and Montana. Again, a lot of precipitation, much higher elevation snows. But for Montana, this precip here, any field work that has been getting done, we're going to see a slowdown. And we might even see some issues with replanting and flooding in the fields. So It's going, and we've got a lot to talk about. My recommendation, watch every one of our videos this week, and please keep a close eye on the radar so you know the timing of this, and I'll keep you updated on the total amount so we can see how it impacts ag out west. So it's getting wet. Get ready for it. With that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this forecast video. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions hope you look forward to our next Western Regional forecast. Hope you have a great week. Thank you.